You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast, where we are watching network television because me and Nathan don't watch network television. We are currently watching what first aired in 2013, the season 1 of The Blacklist. We are also watching season 2 of The Mentalist, which first aired in 2009, and season 2 of Miami Vice, which first aired in 1985. As always, we start with The Blacklist. Season 1, Episode 16, Mako Tanida, number 83.
Yeah.
Which I wonder if we keep track of the numbers, if they mean anything.
You know what? I never thought of that, but
I'm not going to. So
yeah.
Because once you go to that road, you're going to find way too much that you need to know. So, original air date, March 17, 2014, NBC Monday. Tom struggles to keep his secret safe. Wrestler goes after the man who's taking down his old team one by one, Mako Tanida. Showrunner John Bokenkamp. Written by a ton of people.
15 people.
We got written by John Eisendrath. Actually, this is teleplay by. So there's a difference in television. So you see, we have a Joe Carnahan story by.
Yep.
So if you come up with a story and you write the screenplay, you get a written by credit. If someone else comes up with a story and then you write the screenplay, you get a teleplay credit.
Okay. I learned something today.
Yeah. All right. So it's written by John Eisendrath and John Bokenkamp and Patrick Fassett and John Zinman. They just put everybody on this episode.
Yep.
Directed by W.M. Watkins. I think this episode is all right, but the amount of writers tells me like this episode is stuffed with too much stuff.
Yes, and it was. Some of it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's just
but it changed direction. It's like the ship was just going from one direction to another. But yeah, because it started out like strong. When this guy makes an FBI agent in Japan like commit ritual suicide with a short sword.
We start
Yakuza guy. Yeah,
we start out with there's a prison break at Abashiri Prison in Hokkaido, Japan, and I looked it up. It's a real prison. Some interesting stuff I found out about it. Is there's this guy, his name's Yoshi Shiratori, and he's famous for breaking out of prisons in Japan. He broke out of 4 of them. He broke out of this one too, and it was like they put him in handcuffs and he was being unruly, and he could just break the handcuffs just for sheer force.
Yeah.
So they put extra special handcuffs on him that like only like a machinist or something could open up. And he would only show up like once a week, so they could like let him out.
Nice, yeah.
But when they would feed him, they'd feed him miso soup, and there's a food slot on the cell. He would pour some miso soup on that, and he'd also pour some miso soup into the cuffs. So over time, he's able to break the cuffs, and some of this might be more lore than reality, but this is the lore. He's able to break the cuffs, and he's able to dislocate both his shoulders and fit through the food slot in the door and escape.
Oh, wow. That's something you'd see in like one of those Japanese horror movies where it's just pouring through a hole in the wall that's way too small for a human being to fit through.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, this guy also, he was like stealing tomatoes from a farm, and the guy, like, the farmer came up and like tried to attack him, and he ended up killing that guy. So then he was on the run, and like he ended up kind of a cop and this is like in 1943, so this is like post World War II. This is after he broke out in 1943, so this what I'm talking about is like even further on. And this cop gave him a cigarette, which I guess was like really valuable at the time. And he kind of broke down to the cop and told him who he was. And so they took him in, and he was like facing the death penalty for killing the farmer. But then they kind of determined like, when this guy escaped places, he never harmed any guards or anything. So this guy, they kind of, I don't know, it seems like injustice for the farmer, but they said that was self-defense how he killed the farmer. And so he got put in prison again and then served his time and then got out. And then, lived the rest of his life. he had a daughter and a wife too. So
Oh, okay. Well, good.
interesting guy. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was so yeah. I was just like it's just one of those like, is this a real place? So, like, so that was an interesting thing. So
Japanese legal system, even though this episode only has very, very little to do with it, is very interesting.
yeah.
How they do things, because how they do things now is sort of based on how we do things, but it's got its Japanese style because they still have executions there like all the time. And
Oh, okay.
when they execute people, they treat them with great, and it's execution by hanging, but they treat them, but it's mechanical hanging, so it's like not you're not standing there being strangled to death. It's like drop, break the neck type hanging, which is how we do it too when we do it here. Um, but yeah, they're like they treat the guy really nice before they kill him. Like it's very, and some of the guards are crying and they're upset about it, but because they were interviewing him and asking him, like, they didn't show the actual execution, but they showed all the people around it. And the guy was like, "You seem very upset." And he goes, "Yeah, this is terrible to do to another human being, but it is also necessary. It's just we have to take the burden of doing this." And it's like, oh wow, that's a whole different style. Because here it's like dead man walking, and it's just walk him in and hook him up and good night. But yeah, there they kind of view it's like, yes, he's done horrible things, but this is also the end of his life. So
Yeah.
we're gonna light a little
They're not,
Buddhist
they're not,
thing.
they're not just carrying out a sentence. They're not committing. They're fulfilling a ritual.
Yes, it's very ritualistic because they stand there and they do the weird. You ever seen the guys that salute like this, like they do the real high
Yeah.
salute when they're looking up? Yeah, they do that when they hang the guy. It's very strange. But it's like, oh, okay, I get it. It's like it's a horrible thing to have to just walk someone into some place and kill them, but they kind of like, yep, this is what has to happen, but it's terrible. But this is our job and this is what we do, and we're gonna wear white gloves and we're gonna do it with dignity and all that. And I'm sure the guys here are serious about it too, but some of the stuff that's gone on here seems a little fast and loose, especially stuff that went on like in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And it's like, yeah, let's see how this electric chair works. Like it might work.
This is the most humane thing we can do.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's.
But we have
Yeah. Anyway, back to the story.
We have the titular Mako Tanida escaping. It's in northern Japan, which I'm not sure like how seasonal Japan is, but at least here it's got snow all over the place. I'm not even sure. I doubt they shot.
They're in the same climate zone we are.
Okay.
So yeah, the further north you get, you just same kind of weather we have.
Okay, I just like I don't think I've seen any or many pictures of like a snowy Japan. I'm pretty sure it happens. I just never seen it.
It's mainly in the north. That's why hardly anyone lives there. Because the guys I talk to on the internet that are from Japan, one of them, he's like a mechanic he like fixes fishing boats, and he's in northern Japan. He's like, yeah, no one wants to live here because they say it's too cold. Because it snows and stuff, and it's like, yeah, and I was like, yeah, it snows in Michigan, and then he pointed out, he's like, yeah, you're the same parallel I am, just around the globe. Is like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it's not very populated up there. As a matter of fact, those are the places where they show the cities where like nobody lives anymore because all the old people died and just no one had any kids, and that's northern Japan. And we got a lot of military stuff up there too, our stuff.
Yeah,
like Air Force bases and all that.
They got guards and dogs out looking for the guy, but they don't catch him. Then we're at some FBI agent's house in Japan who also can't pay his bills.
Yeah.
Which I sort of looked it up. I was like, do we have FBI agents in Japan? Because his family's there. So I was like, that's kind of weird. And like, so we do have at the U.S. Embassy, there is like an FBI contingent there.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. They just have a guy living in Japan who's an FBI agent who can't pay his bills.
Yeah, it seemed kind of odd. Is like, oh, is this guy like an Interpol task force or something? But yeah, it didn't matter. It's just the story. So because he was wearing like the classic blue jacket that said FBI on the back of it. Like it's like, okay, maybe why not?
And he like kisses his family goodnight, stares at the bill, and then like the escapee puts the sword to him, and they take him outside. This is Agent Ramo or Ramo. I can't remember. That's I wrote it how it's spelled, but I don't know how to say it. I guess I'll just say Ramo.
Yeah, they were saying Ramo in the show, as I remember.
Okay. And he was on like Red's. He was on Red's task force that Wrestler was on, and Tanita wants him to commit seppuku in exchange for his family's life, and so he shoves the knife in his gut and falls over.
Yeah, because the Tanita's like, well, you either do this, and you die, or you don't do this and I shoot you and then I shoot your family. It was kind of like that's why he did it. Because at first he threw him the sword and he's like, are you out of your mind? I'm not doing that. But it's like, okay. So that immediately makes Tanita seem like a scary guy, like someone who's willing to just disembowel yourself with a sword and maybe I won't kill your family type. Oh, it's like that's just, and you're gonna watch that because that's not a quick death either.
No,
that's like disembowelment.
And I believe Tanita is played by Hoon Lee, who I think will know him. He is like the and remember Banshee?
Yes.
He's like the transgendered bartender or whatever.
Oh, really?
Or transvestite bartender.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty unrecognizable. Pretty different characters here. So. Because in Banshee, he's very American.
Yeah. He's not Asian at all. Just he looks Asian, but
yeah.
Huh. Okay. Weird.
So then we cut to, I think, we go to credits. We come back. Jolene, Tom, and Liz are like at like the breakfast table or whatever, and it's all this like Jolene's really trying to make things uncomfortable for Tom because she's like speaking like double entendres, but like Liz doesn't know what's going on, but he does.
Yeah, she's speaking elliptically about things she knows, and she also calls him by this wrong name. She's like, yeah, you teach this, you're like Tim or something, right? Like, yeah, Tom, but yeah.
And then we cut to wrestlers at Agent Ramo's, is it a funeral or a wake or an after funeral thing?
Something like that,
yeah. He sees his old team. Because he committed suicide, of course, his death is being ruled as a suicide.
Yeah, no one's like looking into that. Like, oh yeah, he just like ritually disemboweled himself. Like, yeah, for an Italian guy and a New York FBI agent, that's a little. He really got into the Japan thing. No one's like second guessing that.
Of course, the crew, they're like, no, this is like there's something. Yeah. And then one of the crew blame Red. Then we cut to Red, and he's at some ballet recital handing money off to a dancer for mysterious reasons. We find out later on, but it seemed more like, oh, is this one of the Red has a housewife that deals drugs, and like, so is this one of those?
Yeah, is he a patron of the arts in some weird way?
But they do like drug deals in the background or something. But
yeah.
But then Wrestler meets with Red. I wrote down the dialogue that Red said because it's not always like fun Red dialogues where he just makes everything a bit more interesting than what would be a pretty standard scene. This is like, I came to see you, Donald, and it wasn't to revisit all the times I eluded your little coterie of door kickers who pursued me with such fervor and zeal.
Yeah, you love the Redisms.
And then news here where Red tells Wrestler about Tanita, and he's hunting Wrestler's old crew. So, and then we have Tanita kills McGuire by like cutting his head off and throwing him off a bridge or something, or just cutting. His head.
Something weird. He's just laying in the snow and covered in blood. Yeah.
And then Wrestler goes to hide Audrey. And then Jolie and Tom meet at like his tactical warehouse. So now it's full. Now it was still kind of like, all right, we don't know what he's doing. He hasn't necessarily admitted to anything. Now it's full on. He's just some agent for somebody.
Yeah.
Like, he's got his whole like guns everywhere, a muscle car, just in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah, and Lance Reddick is following them and taking pictures.
Yeah. The Cowboys on their tail. They also talk of like getting word to Berlin because they said like he went dark, so that's why she's there. So somehow Germany's involved, or at least some station, something stationed out of Berlin is going on here.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes. I've heard that term only. That's a big Cold War thing.
Yeah,
Because Berlin Station was kind of like the KGB's entree into Europe, and a lot of operations got run out of Berlin because at that time it was a divided city.
yeah,
So they refer to it here. It's like, oh, is this still the Russians or what is this?
yeah,
It just sounds cool.
yeah. Wrestler gets attacked on the road when he's trying to bring Audrey to his off the grid place. Uh, like does Audrey get shot twice or just once here? There's a part.
She smashes her head into the windshield or into the driver's passenger side.
Yeah, but it looks like blood sprays up into the window. But
yeah, it looks like she really hit her head because she was walking around. So I assume she didn't get shot in the head.
Okay.
Because I thought at first, it's like, oh, she gets shot in the head? Like, why is there this corona of blood on that passenger window? But it turns out she's banged her head, I guess.
Okay. She had high blood pressure. She banged her head.
Yeah, just arterial spray.
Wrestler like his car gets knocked on the road, so the car that's chasing him stops, and he like runs up and kills like pretty much all the guys except for one.
Yeah.
But then he's wrestling with one guy, and then Aubrey gets shot. And I wrote again ? And then I also wrote Aubrey dies ? Because he's holding her. He's like, come on, hold on, Aubrey. And like I don't. But then she dies.
Yeah. Which is like, this is the woman he like broke up her marriage just by because he was in the hospital, and remember she was the emergency contact that he never changed.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, he was just rekindling something from like a couple episodes again, and it's like, oh, now she's dead.
Yeah,
which
it felt like
it set a very dark tone all of a sudden, like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Well, also I felt like you needed to do this like a bit. You need a bit more episodes for this to pay off, because in this episode I feel like, no guys, we really need to pay this off. So they throw a lot of stuff in here. It's like, you want to know how sad this is? This is how sad this is.
Yep, we're just checking names off the list.
So like they didn't really have Audrey in enough episodes for this to be like earn the kind of, but they throw enough in here. It's like, no, it's sad. You'll understand. Yeah. Wrestler meets with Red again. Wrestler wants revenge, of course. Red gives him a location of some underground hospital, and then Wrestler and Bobby check it out.
Well, let's remember that Red also gives a speech about revenge.
Yeah.
Or he reluctantly gives the information. He's like, yeah, you don't really want to do this because the pain never goes away. Like,
yeah. Well, I thought about the weird thing here is he said like, it's going to change you to murder a man in cold blood, which, Wrestler killed several people, I think, so far, and he wouldn't be killing this guy in cold blood. It'd be in hot blood.
Yeah, this isn't like I just need to kill this guy because I'm a time traveler and he will commit crimes in the future. It's like, no, he's already horribly murdered, and these are the people we know of.
Yeah. But Bobby seems reluctant to go on it, so like I wrote down, I wonder if that means he's on Tanita's side because he's reluctant, which he ends up kind of being. Oh, it's weird.
It's strange.
And then they go to that place, and Wrestler finds a guy that ran away and just shoots him in the leg to get info.
Yeah, I mean, he's not screwing around. That's a secret hospital in a residential suburb of Virginia. And they're like doing hospitals, like they're treating this guy for all the other bullets that Wrestler put into him earlier.
Yeah, so what's one more?
Yeah, and he's like, so where is he? Oh, I can't give you up. He'll kill me. He shoots him in the knee. And he's like, shut up, stop screaming. Okay, now are you going to tell me? And there's like a bunch of people in the basement like, wait, whoa.
What you would say, like, Wrestler's going off the grid, but his whole job working for the post office is off the grid anyway. So
yeah, he's just like, Yeah, it's kind of weird because when you look in that, like you think like, oh, this isn't a normal like FBI guy.
Yeah.
This is like FBI counterintelligence type people. This is like the guys in The Americans, you know, like that was FBI counterintelligence. And they just straight up killed people all the time in that story. And there wasn't like they were going to court about it or anything. It's like, no, this is a shadowy world. So it's not like he was like, you know, the FBI guys on TV in the 50s where we always do the right thing. He was never that guy. So even though this is like, yeah, Tom's a little out of control, it's like, yeah, as compared to what? This is some weird off the books agency where like the deputy attorney generals get killed and stuff, and it's like, it might be related to us. Well, we don't know. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Just sometimes we like to have fun with the internal logic of the show.
Yeah. I consider
guess,
these people like FBI in name only. Like they're a lot closer to just CIA people that operate in America because they seem to have the same intelligence and guidelines and operational.
Well, if they do something wrong to a normal civilian, there will be consequences. If they do something to like these shadowy, like government people from other governments, like it's okay as long because they're meant to hide that stuff.
Yeah, it's all off the books. I mean, they didn't come in on a tourist visa, and you know who they are. You know, they're here.
The cowboy goes after Jolene, but Tom knocks him out. Then we cut to wrestler grabbing Tanita, and then they're talking about something about Tanita's brother Aiko, but like we're cutting back to like the headquarters, and they're like trying to put things together. And like early on, they learn about Aiko, and they assume he's alive and running things, but he's actually dead. And so I guess that means that like Bobby had took over the Yakuza business or something.
Yeah, which is like, okay, this is dumb, but all right.
Which they don't follow up on that. That's just kind of left out there.
No, because they can't. Because you know, guess what? They don't let like the Yakuza and crime in Japan. Like they don't just let anyone in the club. Okay? Japanese don't even want people immigrating to their country, let alone, like I said, some beefy faced Italian. It's like, I'm running the Golden Triangle now, boys. Like, okay, what's he bringing to the table exactly? Like money, intelligence? It's, you know.
Well, they do mention that, like, you know, Tanita was like the head of this Yakuza gang, and he went in jail, and like their profits went up, which I don't know how they would know that, but
yeah, I was gonna say, if you know where their bank accounts are, you know where they
are. We have Tom and Jolene interrogating the cowboy, and then Jolene makes a call, and then Tom fights her.
But the thing is, like, this is a great like Lance Reddick scene because see Jolene's supposed to call
Liz.
Yeah, Jolene's supposed to call Liz and say, "Oh yeah, I don't want to. My fiance is not buying the house. We're moving or whatever." And the cowboy's sitting there in the chair is like, you know, and it's classic Lance Reddick, like, "Don't do that." Because when you hang up that phone, he's gonna kill you, and then he's gonna kill me. But it's only the way he can deliver that dialogue, which is like, oh, that's cool. And then it happens, and it's like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. So like Tom starts to fight her. Lance Reddick, the cowboy, gets out of his cuffs for a little bit. He gets knocked out again. Tom like is fighting. He's choking Jolene, and then just kind of puts a bag over her face, and she dies in like seconds.
Yeah, it's one of those movie TV chokes.
Well, I thought like, oh, she's just passed out because everybody in the scene is passed out at the moment. It's like, no, she's dead, and he walks up to the cowboy and shoots him in the head off. He's with his head is off screen, but you can see.
Yeah, it was kind of a waste of Lance Reddick. But
yeah.
I wanted to see more about the cowboy.
I know,
because him and Red always had this great dialogue. Because he tells Reddington, he's like, you know, that hat makes you look stupid. He's like, hey, you're telling me you're the one who's talking? Because you know the cowboy hat and stuff, and I wanted to see more of that, but you know, like probably get him for 2 weeks. So
yeah, you know, Lance Reddick's a busy guy, so it's probably in between him doing Fringe and then what's the Amazon cop show? Bosch.
Bosch, yeah. He's the same guy in everything. This is the only thing where he's out of his comfort zone. Because in The
Yeah.
Wire, he was like what, the deputy chief of detectives or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
Um, and then we have Bobby and Wrestler are riding with Tanita up to Wrestler's like secret hideaway that he was gonna bring Audrey. And then Bobby gets mad at Tanita. Gets mad at Tanita and shoots him.
Yeah.
And then Wrestler's wrestling with Bobby, and then the car crash. and then Wrestler gives chase to Bobby because he just walked out somewhere in the middle of the snowy woods. And then of course, yeah, then they like, and then the FBI figures out that, or Liz figures out like, oh, they're probably going to that place, so they're kind of on the way. And then this is where a Wrestler confronts Bobby, and he basically finds out that like he sold out the team for money. I'm like, how much do FBI agents make that they're going to be swayed by drug money?
I thought they were pretty well paid.
That's what I thought.
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But
that's the theory of this episode. That's why you have that guy in money trouble. Is he like, oh, this is why the guy's swayed? It's because we pay the FBI nothing.
I guess you got to come up with a motivation other than it's like, no, I loved evil all my life. That's why I became an FBI, which would be cool. Like, I'm obsessed with evil and murder, but that wasn't the case.
No, there wasn't enough time this episode to really follow anything.
No, it jumped around a lot.
So Wrestler wants Bobby to commit seppuku or get shot. Liz shows up and she talks Wrestler down. Wrestler just pops off some shots for fun.
Yeah, but the way they show it, it's kind of cool because they just have Wrestler in frame and his gun going off. It's like, oh, did he just snap and execute this guy? But then they kind of pan over and you see it's like right next to his head, but it never hit him.
So now he has hearing loss, of course.
Yeah, now he's like, what? What?
Which also is kind of like weird. It's like, because like the other FBI agents have guns on them. They're like, don't shoot him. He fires the gun and they don't shoot him.
Yeah, which is like contrary to everything that's happening with police and law enforcement in this country right now. They're preemptively shooting. They're just coming in wildly firing away.
But it's very Wrestler for him to just just throw off some rounds.
So. He likes to do that in the middle of New York City.
And then apparently Bobby is overcome with guilt and having to deal with the American justice system, and so he stabs himself in the gut.
Yeah, which is like no American's doing that. I'm sorry.
And then Tanita gets away, or they go back to the car, and he's broken out.
Yeah, after being shot twice in the chest. Maybe he had bullet vest. I don't know. We never see him again.
Oh, we do. We'll talk. We'll get to that. Wrestler goes through Aubrey's luggage and finds a pregnancy test that's positive, of course.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, just the cherry on top of darkness. Surprised they didn't have Wrestler like looking to the sky and seeing him and his daughter and his girlfriend. It's like, oh, this is what could have been. Now I'm obsessed with evil.
And then we cut to another scene where Tom is burying the cowboy and Jolene.
Yeah, I want to know where this guy lives, where you can go and like to dig 2 holes that deep and like nobody. And because the lights of the car are on too. It's like, do you know how long that takes in the winter to dig a hole? Unless it's going to be just pure shallow grave stuff, but I don't know.
Unless he just like preemptively just had those pre-dug
just holes ready to go. Yeah. Pre-dug graves. That would attract attention if anyone was walking through the woods. If you wanted to keep someone off your land and you own a large plot of land and people are hunting or walking when they shouldn't be, yeah, just start leaving pre-dug graves around.
Then we cut to the back. We're back at the ballet, and there's dancers are putting on a performance, and they're talking about a rumor about Red's daughter.
Yeah, because he's the only one watching.
Yeah. We also cut back to Tom and Liz, or Tom is in the shower getting the blood off, and then Liz pops in. It's like, "How was your day?" And he's like hiding, like washing off the blood on like Liz's back.
Yeah, he's just blood all over him. And, oh, it was pretty good. Why are you taking a shower with the lights off? No reason. Come here, give me a hug.
Have you ever? I mean, I've heard people like give tale of dark showers and it being better somehow. Like I've never trust the bathroom that.
Yeah, I'm not into like falling and going headfirst into porcelain toilets. It's nice with a candle. I've done that before.
Yeah, I've heard like dark showers, also dark showers plus a shower beer.
Yeah, just that's usually what gets you going in the morning. It's that Heineken sitting right on the shelf next to the shampoo. You're not in a bad place at all if that's your routine. No, it's nice with a scented candle sometimes. Only when it's cold. If it's really cold outside, taking a nice hot shower with a candle burning's nice, but that's about the limit of my feng shui.
Red watches the ballet, and also we cut to wrestler getting a box that he sent him, and it has Tanita's head in it.
Yeah, but see, this is the weird thing. Like he's watching Swan Lake. They're playing the music. The ballet dancers are doing the Swan Lake, and his eyes he's not crying like weeping, but his eyes are kind of moist, and he's just sitting there staring.
Yeah, his eyes are more reflective because he's about to go. He's teary eyed. He's not crying tears, but his eyes are more reflective because he's more emotional.
And while Swan Lake is playing, this like wrestler gets this box, and it's like, this is from Mr. Reddington, and he opens it up, and while the camera's going back and forth between him emoting about Swan Lake for reasons we don't know yet. He opens a box, and it's like, yeah, that is Tanita's head in a box, which is really like, see, that's what I like about how they write the Reddington character, because that's a thoughtful gift in a lot of ways. Because you can order those mealworms online and just put it in like a box full of soil out back, and they'll bone it down. And then you can kiln fire that, glaze it, and put it right next to your bed. So it's there when you go to sleep, and it's there when you wake up. And it's always a reminder that you won. Which I guess is what Red's trying to say. I don't know. I don't know what you do with a human's head. Never been in that situation, believe it or not. So
hey wrestler, here's some evidence. We'll see what you do with it.
It's just like Jelly of the Month Club every day, though. It's like, yeah, this is the guy who killed the woman I loved, and there's his skull. And I mean, you can dip it in bronze and drink the liquids out of it. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do with a skull, especially with the jaw attached. Like, yeah, you can really like display that.
Put some mechanical motors in it, and
make the jaw. Put some LEDs from the eye sockets, and just go into a blissful sleep.
Revenge has been bet.
Yep.
I have been satiated.
Is this how I think about it a little less every day, Red? Is by looking at my skull? Is this the part of the healing process?
And then the last thing we see is Red is holding a ballet program from March 22, 1987. So,
yeah.
Which is before like the fateful day.
Ancient times.
Yeah, it was a fine episode, but it was crammed with too much stuff. There's too many.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, and there was a lot of cool things going on, but it would be like nicer to appreciate them more instead of like scene. Yeah. I don't know why they did it that way. But it seems to be kind of a thread as this show goes on, is like they're just throwing stuff, cramming stuff into these episodes. And again, because I don't cheat and look ahead, I don't know, like, oh, is there a point to this? Like, what kind of interstitial information are we supposed to gather? But
I mean, it's one of those episodes that just feels like two episodes got crammed together. Like you could have easily could have been just the wrestler, old teams getting taken care of episode, and then wrestlers Reds in the background.
Yeah,
and we could have had the Jolene, Tom, the cowboy. That could have been an episode unto itself. And then really Liz is kind of the person that gets the short end of the stick in this episode. She's in it for like 3 scenes and says
Yeah.
like 2 sentences. But yeah, I mean, this was your wrestler episode, so they kind of felt like we could have had a full wrestler episode. But anyways, for our second show, we have The Mentalist, Season 2, Episode 16, Code Red. Original date, March 11th, 2010, CBS Thursday. The leak of a dangerous virus at a bioresearch facility results in the death of a scientist, and Lisbon and Jane clash with a disease control officer when they decide to treat the death as a homicide. Showrunner Bruno Heller. This is also written by Bruno Heller and directed by John F. Showalter.
Yeah, this is a different episode because the murder victim calls Jane.
The victim isn't dead yet.
Not yet.
It's a biolab in Los Colorados, California, which that's just a made up place.
Yeah.
They shot it north of LA. Which I know all around California there is a bunch of just like secret scientist stuff going on. You know, there's a lot of what they call the gun belt, where like basically all the military equipment's made, and it's like along California somewhere.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. Anything involving like high technology and stuff like that. Well, that used to be Boeing moved to Chicago, so. But yeah, this sounds like something like I'm sure they do this here.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember California has a larger economy than the UK, so it's like there's a lot of stuff going on there.
And there's a lady, it's Dr. Seberg, but we don't know that yet. But she goes into the lab, and there's a missing capsule, and then she finds it on the ground, opened up, and then she like, oh no, and then like closes the door, and then we cut to
walking through like airlocks to get in there.
Yeah. And has a special eye scanner. Which I was wondering if was that there just to be cool, or if it's going to be a plot point. It becomes a plot point.
And also those eye scanners, I believe I have heard those were based on the things that held the viruses in the Moonraker from the 70s. I've heard that there was kind of like a little homage to, because that was about like the guy using bioweapons to kill everyone on the planet.
Oh.
Well, they were in space. Because that was the one where they played the tone to get into the library was the thing from Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, okay.
That's how James Bond got into the secret biolab, and but the devices that those were stored in looked a lot like those retinal scanners. Now that's not a confirmed fact, but a lot of people, when I was looking up things about this episode, were like, "Yeah, those are from Moonraker." It's like, oh.
Then we cut to CBI, and Jane is trying to cheer up Lisbon. She's probably under a lot of stress because last episode his senator's daughter got killed.
Yeah, there's probably some, and she's trying not to drink desk whiskey. Not the same Lisbon.
And then Dr. Seberg calls Jane, and she says she's been murdered. Not yet, but she will be. And so Jane and Lisbon helicopter into the lab. Here, another character actor watch. We have Tom Curran as Dean, the head of the. It's like the
What's
California.
His name? Dean Harkonnen it's Dean Harkin. I'm sorry.
He's a Scottish actor, but he's in like a bunch of sci-fi shows. I think it's like do you remember that show Defiance?
Yes.
So he was like the main like kind of gangster alien in like that white makeup.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've seen this guy on BBC stuff before too.
Yeah. He's
he was like an angry cop or something.
Yeah. Like I would have swore like he would have been in Game of Thrones, but no, he hasn't been in. But he's definitely a guy that would be in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean if he was available and they had a character, he looks the part.
And of course, I immediately thought like is because they introduce him and kind of shove him away. I thought like, oh, is he going to be the one who killed them? But he isn't, because I think he's also flown in, so he really wouldn't be involved with the murder. But Jane is suspicious of him like pretty immediately. But
well, I like how Jane gets called from this doctor who says she's going to die soon from this very terrible virus, and they use it like a CHP helicopter. Like, oh, that kind of makes sense. But he's like getting out of the helicopter, like, whoa, that was amazing, you know. And it's like you're in a bioweapons research facility where someone's gonna die, and you're just like, but that's just Jane being just wildly
Yeah.
inappropriate. But it
Oh
was
yeah.
kind of weird how he was acting.
I don't know. There's he does probably one of the most inappropriate and cruel things he's ever done in the series.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's fucking terrible. I mean, terrible.
So,
Even I was like, wait a minute, okay, this is like, even for him, this is career-ending stuff.
Yeah. So Jane talks to Dr. Seberg while she stays in the room. We have Cliff, the husband, who seems calm.
Yeah.
I think there's some exchange with like, we're like, because like Jane's kind of like all happy. It's like, oh, this is an interesting mystery while a woman's about to die, and I think Lisbon says like, yeah, if you're a jaded, ghoulish adventure seeker, like this is fun.
Yeah.
And of course he is. So
Yeah, he does it really. Yeah.
Jane observes that there's like 3 potential suspects, and so they're like, or no, he's observing them as they like fill out like accident reports.
Because theoretically, there's only 5 people that can get into that lab.
Yeah. I have another character actor watch. We have J.C. McKenzie. He's almost in 100 Things.
Okay.
He's basically looks like a B grade Alan Ruck. Who's like the friend from Ferris Bueller.
Yes. Okay.
So he's never like a main character, but he's like one of those. Oh, that guy, he's a scientist and stuff. And then like Jane is trying to mess with the doctors, trying to shake a confession out of them. We find out Dr. Sebring was having an affair with Dr. Kasim, but apparently her and Cliff have an open marriage, and so it's not a problem.
Yeah, for me at this point in the story, because I really like, the Dr. Seberg and her husband. It's like, they seem like kind of nice people. They're probably like way too smart for the rest of the world. And it's like, oh no, they're sickos. They're doing like weird, like, yeah, you can sleep with anyone and so can I. It's like, yeah, that always builds a strong marriage. Okay. So I figured it was like, oh, it's going to come back to them in some way.
Yeah.
But, it's just like, oh, they just make the characters like a little less likable and weird to me. It's like, ooh, okay.
Which just doesn't help. The next scene we have like that tearful phone call with the daughter as Seberg awkwardly dies.
Yeah, and she's like, don't cry. Don't waste your energy. You can be sad for 2 days because of my like suffocating death or whatever, however that stuff killed. Because they said, by the way, also, they're working at some bio lab and they're not, Americans. This is like American law. They always say this stuff like, well, we're not developing bioweapons. We're developing cures for them. But this stuff is so lethal. They said, oh, if this gets out, like every vertebrae in 60,000 miles will die or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
and it's like, whoa, these people should be wearing like spacesuits working with that stuff.
Yeah, the daughter in tears as Cliff stands by, and he just seems to be slightly shaken by his wife dying.
Yeah.
So that doesn't look great for him. He should be more emotional, but like his whole thing, he's a really smart guy. Being emotional doesn't help anything, so he just doesn't use his emotions.
Yeah, it's the Vulcan way.
Which is probably why they have an open marriage.
Yeah, I was going to say this leads to a lot of things. And
we have Jane kind of butting heads with the CDCA investigator, the California Disease Control Association.
Yeah, it's more of these like fake California agencies where California has like the power of a country.
Yeah,
it's like, because if this really happened, like the FBI would be all over this and USAMRID and everyone else. But now here it's like, it's our own state stuff.
Well, there's some like technical details where it's like it isn't. They don't actually know it's a murder yet. It's like she's the one that's claiming it's a murder. Because there's like, this is just an accident. But she's like, no, this can't be an accident. I'm being murdered.
Murder. Most foul.
Cho and Rigsby go to like I think it's like the California Institute of Technology, which I don't know if it's real or not, or if they're just making a play off of MIT.
Yeah, Caltech's real.
Yeah, Caltech is, but they call this the.
Oh, I thought they were going to Caltech.
Oh, maybe they are. Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. They talk with a professor. There's another character actor watch. Brian George.
Yes.
Who's in almost 300 things. Most recently, he was like Avasarala's husband in the Expanse.
Yep.
This guy, yeah, this is probably the most prolific character actor we've had so far. So.
He's a British guy. He's been on a bunch of American TV, though, as a British guy.
Yeah. And like did a bunch of Bollywood stuff too. He's like,
oh, okay.
Like, he's like a Jewish Indian.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so his first credits like in 1976, and then yeah, currently he's sitting on 299 credits. So he only has to do one more thing. He's in 300.
In the club, and I recognized him right away. It's like, yep, yeah. That guy
does a lot of voice work too. So.
Oh, okay.
That gets your numbers up. Cho and Rigsby get pointed at Greta Sky, who's like an old colleague that the Seberg and Cliff had some falling out with, or at least were led to think that. Jane just kind of stumbles around the crime scene and talks with the daughter on the screen. Jane tries to console the daughter, but it's kind of weird. But then he eventually gets to a point that actually makes sense to her.
Yeah, because he's like, "Are you still sitting there?" You know, and she's like, "Well, yeah, my mom just, it was one of those." And he's like, "You need to call a friend and tell him what's happened." Yeah. And start grieving, because what you're doing now is just not, because it's like, oh, you realize, yeah, Jane is also the master of grief. That's why he acts the way he does, because he's been through it.
Also, Jane bumbling around looks into the eye scanner, and it opens up for him, and so and they're like, oh, that there's a tech in there. It's like, that shouldn't happen, and like now the suspect pool opens up because anybody could have gotten in there.
Yeah, I like how they run out of there too. As the doors start opening, and Jane just takes off like, oh, okay.
I mean, they're also in the middle of like, they have like some like radiation thing cleaning the room, so like they were okay. So, they go to question the security guy. Jane blames him to see if he was like, if like the guy would seem guilty. But he wasn't expecting to be guilty, but then he starts to run away. They're like, oops. And so yeah, he tries to have a car chase, and he is running into cars, and so they start interrogating him. And this is where he gives up that like the security system has been working for months, but he's not the killer. He's just incompetent.
Yeah, he's just like trying to keep the budget, to a certain level.
Then we have like Dean, the CDC guy, talking about the virus case. He seems to know a lot about all this stuff, but I guess he's supposed to. That's his job.
Yeah.
They take the body out, and Cliff has more like, he's a bit more emotional, but he's still like stilted. But
yeah.
And then we cut to Cho and Rigsby, and they're talking to Greta. And she points at Lilith Nash, who's like on the research team. But Jane doesn't think she's guilty, because, and then Lisbon's like, why? Because that wouldn't be an interesting enough mystery for you. He's like, yeah. But then Lisbon's going to go get the Dean guy so they can interview him together. But then, Jane just runs off and isolates Nash from everybody and talks to her. And he kind of like hypnotizes her to suggest she should escape. And so she does.
Yeah, because her backstory was she wanted to have an affair with the doctor, but he wasn't interested. And so she got really jealous and protective. And then she went to a mental institution in Canada. Got so violent and weird. And then she changed her name and moved here and is working there again. It's like, yeah, this is great background checks on people that are working with like dangerous human engineered bioweapons like this. We're not killing, we're not stopping like cattle flu or something. It's like, yeah, boy, there's security. So, but once you find out the eye scanners don't work, and they were just like, well, it's expensive to fix that. It's like, oh yeah, maybe they wouldn't really do good background checks, because they're trying to make money after all.
So then we have a code red gets called. They find an open capsule. And then I wrote, wait, is this a Jane ruse? And of course it is.
Yeah.
This is one of the most cruelest ruses he's ever done.
Yeah, because everyone's got like 10 hours until they die now.
So, but this is like the already sterilized capsule, and he just kind of set it up to make it look like somebody was intentionally killing them all with a new one. But so then they go to check the case, and as the guy opens it up, like Jane causes a distraction and takes one of the vials to show, like, so that when they look back, it's like, uh-oh, there's a missing vial. We're all gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah, Jane palms a dangerous bioweapon into his pocket, which he doesn't know anything about. I guess they say those things are hard to open, though, so he wouldn't accidentally open it, I guess. But yeah, he's just walking around with it now.
And so they announced to everybody there, it's like, yeah, you need to say goodbye to everybody. They're like, what's gonna happen? It's like, well, well, yeah, we have about like so many hours before we're all gonna die, and then the Air Force is gonna come in and firebomb the whole facility.
Which in real life, if it was something that bad, they wouldn't wait for you to die. They just come and firebomb because they don't want people trying to escape.
And we have like Lisbon. We go to credits, and we have cut back, and like Lisbon's giving like goodbyes to Cho. And then Cho is just like, again, he's the perfect guy to confess these things to, because he shows no emotion, but he takes it seriously, but he shows no emotion. He's like, understood. Okay.
Yeah.
And like Lisbon's
because
talking to him.
She says something like, tell my brothers that they need to stop fighting.
Yeah.
She's like confessing family stuff, and and Cho's like, okay, I got the message, I'll let him know. It's just like classic Cho.
And then like Lisbon's like asking, like, so you don't get anybody to call? And he's like, well, the only person I'd call is you, so but you're right here. And that's when he lets slip something like, if we were gonna die. And then Lisbon picks up on that like a half a second later. Wait, like, what do you mean if we were gonna die? And then Jane's like, no, it's all a ruse. Like, we're gonna solve this case. It's like in 10 seconds, Dean's gonna come around the corner and say somebody escaped, and that's gonna be the killer. And then of course it doesn't happen. It happens in like 30 seconds. So she punches him in the face, and then he comes around the corner, and one of the scientists escaped, and it is the guilty party, which is
Welks.
Yeah, that's your B grade Alan Ruck guy, Griffin Wilkes. So then Jane hands the virus back to Dean and just kind of runs away.
Well, he has the virus, so Dean won't beat the shit out of him. He's like, oh, here's the virus. And he just runs away. And
and we find out, and this like a letdown of the episode is like, so they interview Griffin. And he's just like, yeah, I've been selling the small portions of the virus to the black market, and that's just kind of it.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. This is where like everyone in the country from all the 3-letter agencies would be like in that interrogation room.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not going to San Quentin. You're going to a black site. And you're probably not going to be able to see or hear ever again because of all the awful things we're going to do to you. And we're going to go kill all the people you've been selling this shit to. Because it turns out there is a treatment for this. But there's a cure, but the reason the doctors don't take it regularly is because the side effects are horrible. That's why Welks escaped, because he'd been because he figured, well, I'm not going to die because I'm already immune to it.
Yeah, I'm not going to wait here to get firebombed.
Yeah, because it does make sense.
Yeah,
but it's also like, yeah, Jane is like, I'm never working with you again. Like this doesn't happen. So yeah, it was a different episode. I liked it, but it was also.
Yeah, it seems like the Bruno Heller written episodes like go really big with a lot of stuff. So
yeah, this would be like a national crisis, or maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe this stuff happens all the time. We just don't know about it.
But yeah, like Jane tricking people, Jane tricking like hundreds of people into thinking they were gonna die, and having to sit and wrestle with it. That was like one of the most manipulative and cruel things he's ever done in the series.
Yeah, that's bad. But at the end of the day, I enjoyed the episode.
Yeah,
it was engaging, and I was like, oh yeah, this is beyond quirky.
And for our third show, we have season 2, episode 16, Little Miss Dangerous.
Yes.
Original air date January 31st, 1986, NBC Friday. Crockett and Tubb visit Miami's kinky sex world parlor. That's the name of the parlor, Sex World. When a sailor shows up murdered, the trail leads to a mysterious underage dancer. Tubbs tries to straighten out, but is this more than social work? Showrunner Michael Mann, written by Frank Military, directed by Leon Ichazo. Interesting episode.
Yeah, it's totally different.
It's like a serial killer episode. Yeah, we start with a strip club and music. I think, is the Ted Nugent song playing there? Yeah, Ted Nugent has a song called Little Miss Dangerous. I believe that's playing. It gets played a lot in this. I think it gets played several times in this episode.
Yeah, basically whenever the main female guest character is on and performing one kind of thing or another, it's she's on. That song's playing a lot.
Yes, we have a girl in a studded collar stripping, and there's on a stage that's on fire. Yeah, it's playing that song, and then there's an S&M guy revealed. He's got like a cuff belt on.
Yeah.
There's the crowd isn't just like young people that are horny. There's like a bunch of old people in there too.
Yeah.
It seems to be like, this is, it's one of those weird things. It was like in Taxi Driver where they go to the porno theater, and like he's trying to say like, no, all kinds of people go here. like no, only creeps go here. But like the place that in his head he thought that's this crowd.
Yeah, this is what he's really looking for.
This is the crowd in Travis Bickle's head for that porno theater. It's all walks of life. This is just all art.
Yeah, because what was the club called? Sex World?
Yeah, Sex World, yeah.
Yeah, and it was all like, it was very, the neon pastel of this episode really stood out. I mean, it had an interesting episode because it was basically like kind of low-grade S&M, like what you can put on TV in the 80s. Yeah. But it was dancing on a stage with fire and smoke, and it was like, oh, what are these guys paying to get in here? $500 a ticket? I mean, this is like really elaborate production.
And then we have Kat, the male stripper boyfriend, who seems very supportive and has an open relationship with the I think it's Jackie. And he's a very tragic character in this episode because he's like what this woman needed.
Yeah,
is like a supportive and caring person, but she's like she doesn't have this, she can't, from her upbringing, she just doesn't have those emotions to believe in that. So like, even though he's very devoted to her, like it doesn't mean anything to her. She goes out and sleeps with some sailor for money and then stabs him with a knife.
But the way the scene is shot, it's like a knife comes into a hand and there's stabbing going on. You don't see it, but it's implied. And it's like, oh, did that sailor kill that girl? Because you don't, it's not what you expect.
Yeah. Yeah, because eventually they just cut to it and you see like, oh, the sailor is bloody and laying on top of her, and he's like, oh, she killed him. It's like, twist.
Yeah.
Female serial killer. Well, I guess you don't know that she's a serial killer yet, but it's like, wait, why did that happen? And then Kat comes in, he finds a dead sailor. And I wrote they start covering up the murder because she's like burning his pants, but I guess that's just part of her ritual, or they're not necessarily like hiding the murder.
Yeah, and then that and the weird like the real simple like crayon drawings.
Yeah.
Of people being murdered. And I remember this year was the same year that like Manhunter came out. So I know Michael Mann was just the showrunner at this time, but
yeah.
It's like there seems to be influence here.
Yeah, this seemed like a very Manhunter episode. Um, I mean, we have Castillo has like a meeting with all of Vice, and then they're talking about all the other murders that she committed, and it's like, all right, we got a serial killer. So then, like
crayon killer.
so they got to crack down. So they're like, there's like the reporters harassing the cops for info on the serial killer, but also you have like the cops like taking in like all the sex workers out there, to one, take them off the street, two, to try to get background on like which one of them is killing the Johns.
Yeah.
But they're not taking all of them in because because Crockett's talking to one of them, but apparently they didn't, they weren't picking up a customer at the time they were cracking down on everything. So
yeah,
because even like she's like, yeah, Crockett, you gotta find this guy because like I gotta put food on the table.
Yeah, there's that kind of rough, like, oh wow, these people's lives are really hopeless.
And then Tubbs is talking with Jackie, and there's like basically no indication that she just killed the guy. It's like she just seems fine. And then she tells him that she's stripping at that sex world but she's trying to get into acting. She also says she's 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of course Tubbs is like, yeah, stripping doesn't lead to acting. Also, you're in Florida. There's not a lot of acting jobs here.
Yeah, the route you're going down in South Florida does not lead to, the stars of Hollywood. It's leads another way. Well, I will say, like, the actress in this, she does a good job of playing like this kind of vacant person that doesn't really seem to have a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
Which you find out like is later is like, oh yeah, that's her personality. That's like her thing. Is like she doesn't really have feelings. This is why she's like, oh, I got to stab sailors to death and prostitute.
Well, she's also good at like acting innocent, but that's also just like a ruse. But she knows how to do it.
Yeah. She's very convincing. As like, oh, she's evil, but not like threatening evil, not like burning evil. It's just like, yeah, she'll happily hack your head off, but like, she won't cry about it.
And there's a scene where Kat and Jackie are back at their place, and Kat proposes getting married and getting out of town because the heat's on them. But then she's like, "No,
I'm not ready for that yet. I got other things I want to do." It's like, kill more people, okay.
And then Vice talked to the bag lady, who's a homeless woman who like collects metal and some other stuff to sell.
Great scene with Crockett in that too.
Well, she gives Crockett a picture that the art pieces that Jackie makes.
Yeah.
We have Tubbs. Tubbs sees Jackie like walking off with some guy across the street, and like I don't know which way he's thinking this is, because we know it's like, oh, that guy's in trouble, but he's thinking like, oh no, she's in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, Tubbs totally sees her as a victim, and he wants to save her.
Yeah.
Like he thinks there's something interesting about this girl, but he's not interested in her it's kind of implied he thinks she's underage the whole time.
Yeah.
And so he's like, it's actually like a strange, because usually he's like the harder guy of the two, or the less emotional, but he's like really like, I got to help this girl. And of course she's responding to it like, well, it's, let's go have dinner and sex. And he's like, no, this isn't what I'm here for. And yeah, so he sees them at the scene and takes off, and then it's just the bag lady and Crockett. We cut back to the bag lady, and Crockett gives her some wine.
Yeah, and she's brushing her hair with a toilet brush.
Yep. And he like hugs her and stuff, and she's like, "You're so handsome." He says, "Yeah, I get that from all the ladies." It was a good scene though. It seems fun. It's like, yeah, this is a crazy person. Here's a bottle of wine.
I would say she's like a character actor watch, but she did like 30 things, so she's not exactly,
Yeah, she did a good job in this.
Yeah. And then she spots Kat, which is kind of funny because Crockett's like, that's nothing like the guy you described.
Yeah, you said like a tall, blonde, like European-looking guy. Everything's from Europe for her, like movies. She makes all these references, but then she's like, that's him, and he's like, that's nothing like what you said. It was so So we got Tubbs going up to see the girl with the guy, and then you got Cat following him, and then you got Crockett following him.
Yeah. And then then Cat takes a swing at Tubbs, and so he gets arrested and taken in.
Yeah.
And Vice think Cat is the murderer, and so they try to keep Jackie away from Cat. And we have a separate scene where some guy's trying to pick up Jackie just from his car. She gets in the car with him, and then we cut back to Sex World where Crockett and Tubbs are waiting around because Cat's up there doing a show, and so they're just following him around to see if he kills anybody. And in the meantime, Jackie stabs and kills another guy and then sets him on fire while he's in his car.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird scene. She just lays a book of matches on this guy. And...
yeah, makes an art piece, sets him on fire, and then Zito and Switek find the flaming car, and they find another Jackie drawing, but they don't know. But then now they know that Cat didn't do it because Crockett and Tubbs were there the whole time while the guy was killed. So, Tubbs gives Jackie a key to their safe house, which is a crazy safe house with like an indoor pool and like just a huge place.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's your safe house, like the $1 million mansion in like one of the most expensive zip codes in the country. It's like, oh, okay. Nice police safe house.
And then Tubb gets Jackie's sad foster kid story, where basically she was just passed around to different foster parents who were like trying to solve something in their lives by getting a kid, but it didn't mean anything to them, and she didn't solve their problems. So this is where she basically developed her self-worthlessness.
Yeah.
I don't know if it made her I guess she's probably already a psychopath, but this didn't help.
Yeah, she seems like one of those. I was trying to figure out what this character, because she was just kind of an empty vessel, because she even described herself as that. It's like people wanted me to be their dead daughter or their whatever, and it was also implied that it didn't work out for that reason. Then there was other things, so I'm assuming sex was involved. And
well, I mean, she has sex with a guy, kills them, and then sets things on fire. So those are somewhere in her background. That all needs to happen again for reasons, but we don't get that, but it's implied.
Yeah. So it's like she did have a dark past, but did it make her evil, or was she? That's one of those nature versus nurture arguments you could just get wrapped around the axle with. But it was. But that's who she is, and for some reason Rico doesn't want to see it.
Yeah.
But no one else sees it either. So.
I mean, only Cat does.
Yeah.
He knows what she can do, but he wants to believe that she's just a good person in a dark place at the moment.
Yeah, it's there's these bodies that can all be put behind us.
Cat wakes up from a drunken stupor and tries to find Jackie. A lot of weird scenes, just walking in just alleyways with just water strewn down the middle, but the lights are shining in it, and basically it makes it look like it's antifreeze is spilled all over the place.
Yeah, it's very strange. Yeah, very strange look.
Tubbs gets flowers at his desk. Then he goes away alone. Cat calls Crockett and says he'll give up the killer if they leave him and Jackie alone. And then we have the scene where Tubbs goes to the house, and she's trying to kiss him and stuff, and he's like no. So Jackie confuses Tubbs' kindness with whatever her fantasy is. She also just casually told Cat, it's I'm leaving, I found somebody else.
Yeah.
He's no one's else is gonna be a help you like I can. And then Crockett goes to meet Cat, and he sneaks up on Crockett with a knife, which is I think what makes his character good is he's really not overly violent. So this is kind of the most violent thing he does, even though he doesn't stab him, but he's holding him up and made an ambush for him. So that isn't great, but he never hits Jackie, never hits anybody else. This is kind of, so he's seems to be a kind person who's also in a very terrible situation.
Yeah, who's just a performer at an S&M club. Yeah. He's a weird guy, but not like dangerous weird. You know?
Yeah, which is like I think that's what they probably would have. The standard version of this character would be like an abusive boyfriend character.
Yeah.
But he's not that. But then a patrol car comes by, and Crockett kicks Cat away, and then he runs. But the beat cops are holding Crockett up.
Yeah, because he's just some guy in like a suit with a gun. It's like you don't know who that is in Florida.
And then Jackie drugs Tubbs because she says she doesn't want to be alone for the night. So Tubbs is like, yeah, I'll sleep I'll sleep here, but like we're not in the same place. And he's like, I'll take the couch, and she's like, no, you can go to the bed. I'll take the couch. So she drugs him. Crockett breaks in on Kat and Jackie's place and sees all the drawings, and they match up with the crime scenes or the other drawings at the crime scene. And then we have Public Images Limited, The Order of Death plays, which is a really.
And I was waiting to see like, was that robot for hardware going to come out of the wall or something? What's going on? Because that's what I associate that song with. But okay. They were using this a long time. I did not remember this episode of Miami Vice. So.
It's a fairly good one to forget. Because there are a lot of episodes this season where it's like, I don't remember that one. It's like, yeah, because it wasn't good. This was a pretty, at least an interesting one that get to enjoy it again.
Oh, I'll remember it now. Like, yeah, now it's cool. But
Jackie cuffs Tubbs to the bed and takes his gun. She like sets the bed on fire and strips, and then like puts the gun to her head.
Yeah.
And then we have Crockett and Kat like trying to break into the place, and Kat breaks the door down with his motorcycle.
Yeah, he just like wheelies up the stairs and hits Crockett has to jump out of the way, and then this motorcycle goes wheel first and like breaks the door out of its frame.
And then Crockett pops in to see the aftermath because Jackie shot herself in the head. Presumably, we don't see it, but that's presumably what happened. You hear the gunshot. Crockett pops in. He's like, oh no, and then it's just like freeze frame. It's like, I don't know, maybe get the fire extinguisher. Put out
your partner's like cuffed to the bed and it's on fire. You just kind of stand there for a beat, like, what's going on? And but even I might do that if I just walked in a room and some lady blew her head off. I'd be like, huh? Okay, let's put out the fire now.
Yeah, and it's like, why did she do that? And it's like where she's like confusing Tubbs' kindness, and so she doesn't, all the things match for her to kill somebody except for he's kind and didn't sleep with her, so she doesn't want to hurt him, so she has to kill herself. So I don't know.
She's a true psychopath. Then she doesn't value her own life. Yeah. It's like, well, this is how the ritual must work. But she has such an airy performance. It's like that. Yeah, that might actually be the answer. It's just like she was a strange person throughout the whole episode, but not in a sinister way, but ultimately was very sinister. But
I thought she did a decent job. She didn't do a whole lot of acting after this. I guess she was also a pop singer because like her listed credits, she just has like one name. I can't remember what it is. It's
Tony or something.
Yeah,
Fiona.
Yeah, that's it. But I don't know what like pop song she sang, but yeah, I thought she was pretty decent. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was
compared to a lot of the women guest characters they get in this show. She was like way up there.
Yeah, I mean, this is 80s TV, so it's like, yeah, this was pretty good.
It's like Kyra Sedgwick and then like her.
Yeah.
And then you have the other ones that are like way down here where it's like we hired a 17-year-old to play a sex symbol. It's like, it's like, oh, she can't act and this is weird.
Yeah, now I'm uncomfortable. Maybe back then it was cool because we didn't have the internet. We didn't know all this crap was going on.
But yeah, I thought that was a pretty decent episode. Very, very Manhunter-esque.
Yeah. It's kind of. As soon as I saw this, I went and looked up Michael Mann filmography. It's like, oh yeah, this was going on the same time as Manhunter was being filmed and released. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna have this. It makes sense.
And I know the trivia, but I don't know if it happens this season or something. But Hannibal Lecter is like a phone call in one of these episodes, right?
Okay. Yes. Hannibal Lecter is in the official Miami Vice canon as a character.
Okay. But I don't know when that happens. I'm wondering if it's this season.
This show, this is kind of like the tipping point season for Miami Vice, where as we go through the other seasons, it's like, oh, this isn't. It's going to be a lot more stuff like this and a lot less action fun, because it gets progressively darker as it goes on. I mean, there's been a lot of dark stuff this season, but it's kind of been like one episode, like Monster of the Week darkness, and yeah, it starts to make a turn here. Also, this is also the episode where it was interesting that I remember the Public Image song was being used as they do a lot more dark techno. That dark 80s techno becomes a lot more part of the Miami Vice lore after this season than any other time.
Okay.
They go away from a lot of pop music and get into a lot more like, what I guess you call dark techno music of the 80s.
Dark synthwave from Germans.
Yeah, synthwave and stuff like that. So,
or I guess new wave or whatever. Yeah, then it was called new wave. Now it's like they've been all that 80s new wave has been like redissected and it's like, no, there's like 800 different categories. It's all new wave. If it just has a synthesizer, that doesn't mean it's new wave. Pretty much almost everything had a synthesizer back then. So
yeah. It was just music, unlike, it was just rock and roll music's identifiable from when it started to the present. This is just like, oh, this is a different kind of music. This is a new kind of music that came out of the 80s.
Well, also it was like another, like, it was like you didn't have to be like a sex symbol to make new wave music. You just needed a synthesizer and a computer, and you could like make it in your basement, and then people would be like, oh, that's cool. And then like kind of basically like nerds and weird people could make money and get famous making music.
Yeah.
Whereas like, all the rock bands, even though like, you could be a talented rock band and like look weird, but still like the top rock bands are still people like, oh, that's a good looking person that knows how to play music.
Well, you gotta remember, like the song in this episode, like the Public Image, like that was one of the guys from the Sex Pistols. That like that became a different thing. It was like a completely different genre of music, but also kind of the same messages. But yeah, it was cool to see. You see Miami Vice darken like a cake in the oven over this.
Well, if you like what you heard, and how couldn't you? You can find us at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect or go to verhoeveneffect.com. I'll bring you to the same place. There you can we have listener support where you can support this show at a monthly stipend of either $99, $4.99, or $9.99 if you so wish. Whatever platform that you're listening to us on, you can rate us. You can rate us whatever you want. The only thing the algorithm listens to is whatever the highest rating is. So remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. Also find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. We can watch both this and that show live and unedited. You also have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, this is Colin.
This is Nathan.
Goodbye, America.